A child is to be seen and not heard. I heard that so many times growing up I stopped counting. At the dinner table, at family gatherings, whenever I had a thought that was inconvenient for the adults in the room. A child is to be seen and not heard. Stay in a child's place. And then I grew up, and nobody told me that the rule had changed. So I kept doing it. I kept making myself small in rooms full of grown people. I kept my voice low in meetings. I kept my opinions soft and apologetic. I kept qualifying everything I said. I might be wrong, but this is just my opinion. Sorry, can I just? As if my thoughts needed to apply for permission before they were allowed to exist. It took me a long time to realize that I hadn't stayed in a child's place. I had just kept rebuilding it wherever I went. Today we're talking about shrinking. What it is, where it comes from, what it cost, and what it feels like to finally decide you're done. I'm Neeka. This is Unapologetically Us. If you have never been told to be smaller, quieter, less, this episode isn't for you. But if you have, welcome home. We're going there today. Let me tell you what I mean when I say shrinking. I don't just mean being quiet. I mean the full project of making yourself less. Less opinionated, less loud, less ambitious, less needy, less sexual, less angry, less present, less. For a lot of us, especially Caribbean women, especially Black women, especially women who grew up in households where children were ornaments and not participants, shrinking started so early we don't even remember learning it. It was just in the air. It was just the way things were. Seen and not heard. Stay in your place. Who asked you? Children don't speak at the table. Don't be too much. Don't answer back. Don't question. These aren't just phrases, they are instructions. And when you hear instructions enough times, from people who have power over whether you are fed, sheltered, and loved, you follow them. Of course you do. What else would you do? The problem is that we were never given a day, a moment, a ceremony where someone said, okay, you're grown now. Those rules don't apply anymore. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to have a voice. You're allowed to be too much. Nobody said that. So the instructions just stayed. They lived in our bodies, in the way we say sorry when we haven't done anything wrong, in the way we downplay our achievements so someone else won't feel bad, in the way we make our sadness smaller, our joy quieter, our anger invisible, because we learned a long time ago that the full version of us was, what was that word they used? Oh yeah, too much. Too much. I want to sit with that phrase for a second. Because I think a lot of us have that living somewhere in us. The fear of being too much, too loud, too emotional, too ambitious, too needy, too sexual, too angry, too queer, too black, too Caribbean, too, all of it, too. And here's what I want to say to that. The people who called you too much were not equipped for the full version of you. That is their limitation, not your size. I want to talk about what this actually cost us. Because I think sometimes we talk about self-expression and taking up space like it's just a nice idea, a motivational quote, a Pinterest board. But the cost of chronic shrinking is real. It shows up in real places. It shows up in your body first. Your body is not confused about what you actually feel. When you suppress, minimize, and manage yourself constantly, when you perform smallness day after day, your nervous system takes notes. Tension that doesn't leave your shoulders. A jaw that's always slightly clenched. Exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. A low-grade anxiety that you lived with for so long, you think it's just your personality. It isn't. It's the cost of containment. It shows up in your relationships when you've built your identity around being agreeable, palatable, easy. You attract people who need you to stay that way. You end up in friendships where you're always the accommodating one. Romantic relationships where your needs are always second. Workplaces where you're relied on to be endlessly flexible, endlessly available, endlessly fine. And the terrifying part is, you chose them. Or more precisely, the version of you that had learned to be small chose them because they felt familiar, safe. Because people who want you big, people who actually want all of you, can feel threatening when you've spent your life believing your size is a problem. And it shows up in your dreams, in the things you've talked yourself out of, the business you didn't start because who do you think you are? The conversation you didn't have because you didn't want to cause trouble. The life you've lived at 60% because the full version felt, there it is again, like too much. I want to name something that might be uncomfortable. Some of what I'm describing, it wasn't just cultural. It wasn't just family. Some of it was a world that specifically did not want Caribbean women, Black women, queer women to take up space. A world that had systems and structures and very deliberate methods for keeping us small. Because a woman who knows her size is dangerous. A woman who speaks fully is unpredictable. A woman who has stopped apologizing for existing cannot be controlled. So let's be clear here what we're actually talking about when we talk about shrinking. We're talking about survival strategies that became prisons. I want to be honest with you, the way I promised this show would always be honest. I'm not on the other side of this. I'm in the middle of it. There are still days I catch myself making myself smaller in a room. Still moments I apologize before I even know what I'm apologizing for. Still relationships, older ones, family ones, where the pull to shrink is so strong and so familiar that choosing not to almost feels like grief. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about expanding into your full size. It doesn't always feel like freedom at first. Sometimes it feels like loss. Because a small version of you the seen and not heard version, she kept you safe. She kept things smooth. She kept the peace. She kept people who might have left from leaving. Letting her go is a grief, and you're allowed to grieve her, even as you outgrow her. I'm still learning what my full voice actually sounds like. I'm still learning what it means to say what I think without qualifying it to death first. I'm still learning to be in rooms where people are uncomfortable with my size and to stay anyway, to not shrink to make them comfortable. It is a practice, not a destination. And if you're in the middle of it too, we're in it together. I want to give you something now. Not advice. I'm not a therapist, and this is not a therapy session. But something I wish someone had said to me a long time before I had to figure it out myself. You do not have to earn the right to take up space. You were not born too much. You were born exactly enough. Whatever was done to make you doubt that, the instructions, the corrections, the stay in your place, that was about the fears and limitations and unprocessed pain of people who raised you. It was not a diagnosis of your worth. The voice, the full version of it, not the managed version, belongs in rooms, in conversations, in your own life. You don't need to wait until you are more palatable, more qualified, more healed, more certain. You're allowed to take up space right now, in this exact form, with all the parts of you that you have been keeping behind the door, especially those parts. I want to say one more thing, specifically to anyone who is listening, who is Caribbean, who grew up hearing those particular phrases in that particular register from people you loved. You can honor where you come from and still refuse the parts that shrunk you. Those are not mutually exclusive. Love for your culture, love for your family, does not require you to keep following instructions that were never about your flourishing. You can be the woman who loves her grandmother and also refuses to stay in her place. Both things are true. Both things are yours. Before I send you off, I want to leave you with something to carry this week. Not a challenge, not a 5-step plan, just an invitation. Sometime in the next few days, I want you to notice a moment when you start to shrink. Maybe it's in a meeting and you have something to say, but you wait and then someone else says it. Maybe it's when someone asks for your opinion and you immediately soften it before it's even out of your mouth. Maybe it's a conversation where you agree when you don't agree to keep the peace. Don't beat yourself up. Don't try to fix it in real time. That pressure doesn't help. Just notice it. Say to yourself, quietly, privately, I just shrank. And then ask yourself, who taught me to do that here? That question is the beginning of everything. The noticing is not small. The noticing is actually where all of it starts. Because you cannot make a different choice in a moment you are not awake to. So this week, just wake up to it. That's all I'm asking. That's episode 1 of Unapologetically Us. Thank you for being here. I mean that. In a world that has spent a long time telling women like us to be quieter, smaller, more manageable, sitting in a podcast that refuses that is already an act of resistance. You showed up for this. You showed up for you. And most importantly, you showed up for us. That matters. If this episode stirred something in you, screenshot it, share it, send it to a woman in your life who needs to hear it. You never know who you're saving by passing something along. Come find me at Unapologetically Us on Spotify. Tell me what landed. Tell me what you're still sitting with. I want to know. Next week, we're going somewhere tender. Dating while healing is humbling. Because being on a healing journey does not make you immune to making the same beautiful, exhausting mistakes. It just makes you more aware while you're making them. That one's going to be a whole thing. I'll see you there. Until then, take up space. Even if your voice shakes, even if the room gets quiet, even if someone is uncomfortable with the size of you, especially then. I'm Neeka, and this is Unapologetically Us. We'll talk soon.